Monty Award, Outstanding Faculty Award of San Diego State University, Outstanding Contribution from Department of Energy, Energy Developer of the Year by the Association of Energy Engineers, Association of Mechanical Engineers, Best Paper Award, and many others. He is Associate Editor of the Association of Society of Mechanical Engineers Journal and many others. He has delivered invited speeches and keynote addresses. And the topic today is about linking the Oromo calendar to the 4,400 years old Namorotonga astronomical sites. The Namorotonga archaeological sites, radiocarbon dated to 2398 BC, was discovered by Mark Lynch and Lawrence Robbins in 1978. They both proposed that the site may have functioned as an ancient astronomical observatory used by the Cushitic people and the first in sub-Saharan Africa. This hypothesis gained further traction through its association with Haaromsa Gadaa's 1973 seminal work, Gadaa's Reapproach to the Study of African Society, subsequently revised by Dr. Marco Bassi. While considerable progress has been made in understanding the indigenous Oromo calendar, systematic research irrefutably linking Namorotonga to the calendar was never produced. This paper addresses the gap by employing computer-aided analysis of stars and constellations central to the Cushitic timing reckoning, but specifically in this case the Oromo, conducting spatial analysis of the pillar configurations in Namorotonga and correlating these findings with the indigenous traditional calendar as it has been practiced. The finding is published recently in the Journal of Archaeology of Science and provides new and conclusive evidence supporting the site's function as an ancient astronomical observatory. And so I now invite Professor Asfabayene to deliver his groundbreaking finding to these panelists and those attending this meeting. Professor, welcome to deliver your presentation.
Thank you very much, Professor Daniel. Allow me to share my PowerPoint, and please confirm if you see.
Yes.
Okay. Do you see my PowerPoint now?
I can see.
Okay. Thank you very much for that very warm introduction. I'm going to speak in English. This was a pre-arranged agreement with organizers, but in the interest of many of my colleagues who would prefer in Afan Oromo, I promise if we get another opportunity, I will go over this as such in Afan Oromo. I'm going to present, as Dr. Daniel introduced, a link between the Oromo calendar and the Namorotonga archaeological sites. That is my topic. And I will cover about 6 topics. I will first introduce Gadaa, and I will also introduce Urjit trying to tie to Gadaa. This may be trivial to many of you. And as part of my introduction, I will also introduce or go over briefly at least the Namorotonga site, which is the archaeological site in question. And then I will go over Lynch and Robbins' hypothesis, which was rejected by some influential archaeologists at the time. And then I will try to revive that hypothesis and, in fact, to prove it using some astronomy software called Redshift. I will explain what are the proofs, and at the end, I will discuss my findings and give you some conclusions. Anybody with these 4 points can duplicate what I did. If you are familiar with the techniques of Ujiraha, and you understand the Redshift Pro, and if you have some intuition on geometry, some mathematics, and if you have time, you can duplicate what I accomplished. It's not rocket science. Very briefly, Gadaa and Ujiraha are strictly tied. In fact, as Haaromsa Gada's book, 1973 book, introduced Gadaa to the outside or to the academic world, and Gadaa became a UNESCO World Heritage in 2016. And in spite of that, it's my belief that Gadaa is still not very widely known around the scholarly world. Gadaa encompasses politics, religion, ethics, economy, education, and many other areas. We can say a complete life of the Oromo people is under the Gadaa system. So within that Gadaa system, there are lawyers who study law and astronomers called Ujiraha who compute stars and tell the calendar through a school known as Arga Ageti. And this is a seminary-like school where people will pass knowledge through Arga and Ageti, through seeing and listening. Ayantus are astronomers who plan social events, whether it's political elections, agriculture, or other rituals. So my point here is Ujiraha, or the Oromo calendar, is a component of the Gadaa system that, as Haaromsa Gadaa and later on Marco Bassi explained very well. Many others also explained it, but these are the very thorough explanations I've come across. So we have concluded that Ujiraha is a component of the Gadaa system, and Gadaa system and Gadaa officials are responsible in recruiting the Ayantus who become experts at reckoning time for the Oromo people. Now, almost parallel with the advent of Haaromsa Gada's book in 1973, Namaratunga II was discovered about 5 years later by Professor Mark Lynch, who is still alive. I tried to reach him, by the way. He is an emeritus. And Professor Lawrence Robbins, who passed, who is still alive, by the way. I'm sorry, I reversed the sequence. Professor Robbins is still alive. Professor Mark Lynch passed in 1982. They discovered Namaratunga II. I'll explain why that number 2 is there. And the site has exactly 19 basalt pillars within a stone enclosure. And Mark Lynch and Lawrence Robbins estimated at the time that Namaratunga II was constructed around 300 BC. This was an estimate, not exact calculation, or it was not carbon dated. It was an estimated time, 300 BC. And that later became a point of contention, especially by Robert Soper, and I'll come to that in a little bit. Since then, Professor Hildebrand of Stony Brook University published a paper around 2011, and she carbon dated Namaratunga II to about 2400 before current era, which is 4,400 years ago. And this, again, it is carbon dated, not estimated using some simple calculations like Lynch and Robbins did. So where is Namaratunga II? There are 2 Namaratungas. As you see, the lower one, called Namaratunga I, is almost at the south end of Lake Turkana, while Namaratunga II, which is my topic, is on the center west of the lake. So Namaratunga I and Namaratunga II are not walking distances. there is about 200 kilometers between Namaratunga 1 and Namaratunga 2. In all my discussions, I'm talking about Namaratunga 2, the northern Namaratunga. I'm not going to talk about Namaratunga 1. And by now you know why Namaratunga is called 2 or 1. And the other reference to Namaratunga 2 comes from a town which is nearby, and Kalokol. In some books or literature, you may see the Kalokol site. Those of you, and many of you might have at least heard about Kakuma, to the west of Namaratunga 2, some kilometers not far is, by the way, the Kakuma camp. And the site, Namaratunga 2, was precisely mapped by Robert Soper. And this is the site, as you see, it's about 20 meters by 40 meters. The stone enclosure is visible. Those tiny stones are like a fence. And there is the northern observatory and southern observatory, and 19 stones in between. You can see the 19th, the last one, I put it in red to show you that the maximum number. So note again that my topic is Namaratunga 2 and not Namaratunga 1. So Namaratunga 2, I mentioned, discovered in 1978, is hypothesized immediately by Lynch and Robbins as a site with astronomical purpose, for which was used by the Cushitic people. However, the site was not carbon dated by Lynch and Robbins, and no proof of this hypothesis that the site is used as an astronomic purpose, for astronomic purposes. It was just intuition. Now that Namaratunga 2 is carbon dated, not 300 in fact BC, but it's about 200 BC, 4,400 years ago. Is there a proof? And that's the remaining component of this site. Is there a proof, a link between Urjit Aha, Oromo astronomy, and Namaratunga 2? If we can prove that link between Urjit Aha and Namaratunga, it will firmly place ancient astronomy in East Africa, a sophisticated astronomy that existed 4,400 years ago, and then it will render it that old, meaning Oromos have used this calendar right there in East Africa 44 years ago as Cushitic people. But the critical or the important aspect was the immediate rejection by very influential archaeologists such as Soper, who I mentioned earlier. Remember, this site was precisely mapped by Soper. And Professor Soper, a very influential archaeologist who has lived in Nairobi and visited the site and made very accurate, in fact, measured the dimensions of every stone, the north, the south, and he mapped this very accurately. And he came up with some very, very powerful conclusions in a journal published in 1982, that Lynch survey was distorted and there are gross errors in the astronomical findings presented in Lynch and Robbins, and therefore it can no longer be maintained as a hypothesis. So it completely ruled out that Namaratunga 2 is an astronomic observation. And in his conclusion, he wrote Kalokol site, that is Namaratunga 2, in the conclusion here, site rests on faulty survey data and must be rejected, at least for now. Now, the faulty thing is, one, he criticized the angular measurements that were conducted by Lynch and Robbins in 1978, and then the other one, the calculation for that assumed it was constructed in 300 BC, and of course, Soper concluded that this is not astronomical site, but a graveyard. So, a solid link is needed to maintain the hypothesis. That also brings us to the topic of this research. Soper's dismissal is based on three main factors. Unreliable dating, that is resolved by Hildebrand's 2011 research. Alignments are erroneous. He himself provided accurate mapping of the site. But the third one, the pillars are gravestones. That is Soper's conclusion that needed verification, hence the question marks you see. So this also brings the objective of this study. Can Namaratunga II, 4,400 years old, be linked to Urjiraha? Was the hypothesis proposed by Lynch and Robinson valid? Can we demonstrate that Namaratunga II is indeed a Cushitic prehistoric astronomical observatory? I add two footnotes because I assumed Marco Bassi will be in the audience. He did promise for his purpose two footnotes, and I'll come back to this handling of the hypothesis. One, conjunction and proper motion. Conjunction is like latitude and longitude for the space. Longitude and latitude are for the Earth. This allows us to locate or identify the exact location of a star. There are also challenges, no mechanical clocks for 1,000 years ago, even 100 years ago, no mechanical clock. So the reference star, the reading of the stars, Urjiraha, had to have some consistency. That posed a problem, which is a challenge that using a software like this, it is no more a challenge. And proper motion, you see, stars are permanent. They don't move. But over thousands of years, the stars do move a little bit. That motion is called proper motion. So if the star has moved from where it was 4,000 years ago, then the whole study becomes flawed. So I did this study separately to evaluate the proper motion of all the Urjiraha, 7, 8 of them. And I concluded that they did move a little bit, but the movement, the distance they moved, they covered is negligible for a naked eye. That's my conclusion. And this has been in the paper that has been published. This is footnote 1, conjunction, proper motion. We can discuss about this later on. And by the way, conjunction is very well explained in Marco Bassi's book, 2024. And he excellently discusses the techniques, how the Boranas observed the relative position of stars and the moon in order to identify a new man. This is not an issue when you simulate using a software, because I know exactly when conjunction occurs. This becomes simplified. But on the ground, for the Oromo, identifying the conjunction when exactly a new man starts has its own techniques, which Marco Bassi, again, spent several pages in his book. By the way, I don't know if Marco made it only accessible to me. I downloaded this book from a link he sent me free of charge. So if you are interested, you can download it. I think it is an open book, meaning free of charge. Marco also identified some discrepancies with at least the nomenclature of Legesse's accounts. For example, Legesse calls Triangulum Lammi, and Bassi calls Sher Atan and Hamad. Betelgeuse is an addition that Legesse calls safe. I'm not sure about that, but Bassi calls it Bakalch Walla. And Legesse didn't include Procyon. I saw no other literature where Procyon was included, but Bassi includes Bakalcha Basa Dikko as Procyon. So these are all explained in Marco Bassi's book. The reason I mention is both conjunction and proper motion are very important in validating the whether the Urjiraha was valid as today 4,400 years ago. In the Oromo calendar, some principles as footnote 2, Urjiraha rise in sequence, Triangulum comes first and Sirius goes last. And I've gone over these principles in my previous presentation at this very forum, and I will pass this for now because it only complicates the point I'm trying to make, which is Namoratunga tied to Urjidaha? Now I will exit this PowerPoint. I will share with you what is this Urjidaha. So bear with me as I exit what I'm sharing now. Please confirm I have stopped sharing.
Yes.
And then I will share another PowerPoint. And please confirm you are seeing a software which is Redshift 9 on the top left. Do you see that?
Yeah, status says in the center.
It's not centered?
It's centered. It's good. We can see it.
Okay. This is the software I used. In the interest of time, I'll just show you a few things that I did. Number one, I will set the location. The location, I don't know if you see, do you see Yabello here?
Yes.
Okay, I have selected the city of Yabello in Ethiopia. This is done. I have done this earlier already. So, and I will set the stars. I'll set August, early August. I can go back, by the way, to let's say 3 or 5, it doesn't matter. The reason, and by the way, look at 2023. This is the advantage of simulation. I'll make it 2024. As you see, the position of the stars barely changing. 25, barely changing. So I'll go back to 24. It doesn't matter. The stars don't move. And I will also, I can change the hour, 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m. I can change that if I want. In fact, I can go back from 2025 for over 1,000 years. I can go to 1000 AD and investigate what were the position of these stars at that time. Now, I will move a little bit so you can see the entire Urjidaha. I will click on Lami. That is the first Urjidaha, Triangulum. The second one, Plaids, is here. And Aldebaran, Adiran, the Orans are here, Safe is here, and Sirius, which is the last one. So I will do something which you already know. You know how to print the screen. I'll simply press print the screen, which is on my keyboard, and then I will copy this, make sure I include Triangulum and Sirius. So I'm copying this as a graphics. Mind you, I cannot manipulate. Once I copy, I cannot change the position of these stars. They will retain their position. I copied the entire line of Urjidaha, which is from Sirius to Triangulum. If you copy this, I chose August, early August, because as you see, all the line of Urjidaha are visible. All of them are visible. I can expand it a little bit bigger if you want to see. Here is Triangulum, here is Plaids, and all the Bellatrix is here, and Orion is here, Safe is here, Sirius is here. So I copied this frame here, and I have saved it. Now I will go out of my Redshift. I will not share this anymore, and then I will go back to my PowerPoint. Okay, I will share. PowerPoint. Please confirm you see my PowerPoint.
Yes.
Yeah, please use that.
Okay, so now I have saved it. What I'm going to do is I will go to the next page and I will keep what I saved. Now this is Namuratunga 2. You see all these stones. Stone 19, the last one is here, but I will draw a southeasterly line connecting all possible straight lines. As you see, 16 and 14 are on one line, and they are southeasterly. I will do the same thing, southeasterly. If you follow me now, I'm not going to bore you with drawing so many lines, but I will put all the possible lines running northwest, southeast. This is it. Now, I would like you to pay attention and focus, and if you can find any southeasterly line that I missed, I didn't miss. There are exactly 9 lines. 9 lines, southeasterly. Why am I doing this? I am going to paste what I copied from Redshift earlier, and I have covered all. This is what I get. Remember, this black background is what I copied from Redshift, from the software. And these straight lines are the rocks, the stellars, the lines that I drew earlier. This is a moment for wow. Look at that. As I told you, I did not manipulate the position of the stars. I copied hard graphics. I just reoriented what I copied and pasted it here. Look where the lines fall. Okay, this line here shows triangulum. This shows Pleiades. This Aldebaran. This Bellatrix. I'll come to the lower ones. This is Orion. This is Safe. And this is Sirius. These 7 stars were mentioned or listed in Legesse's book. 7 of them. Now you notice there are 2 lines that are still there and not covered by circles, meaning they are not listed by Legesse. That is this line here and this line here. I will superimpose a yellow line on those lines that were not covered by Asmarum Legesse. And at the beginning, I thought, what is going on? And then I went to Marco Bassi's book, and guess what? This one is Betelgeuse that was introduced by Marco Bassi as Basadiko. So indeed, we have 8 stars precisely pointed at by the configuration of Namuratunga pillars. Well, there is one more thing though. You see this line, you can't miss it because 3 big rocks are pointing at a star. This star is a 9th line. Remember, when we drew these lines, we drew 9 of them. So 9 of them are showing 9 stars. That is Betelgeuse that was listed by Marco Bassi. I didn't insert any of these. And here is rocks 12, 13, and 15 pointing at Mirza. That is that star there. Now, I don't even know what Mirza is in Afghan Oromo, but you cannot ignore the line. There were 8 consistent lines that were pointing at all the stars mentioned so far in the literature. The only star that was not mentioned so far is Mirza, and the rocks show that Mirza is one of the stars, which makes the total number of Urjit Ahad 9. Now, notice that all the lines are contained within Triangulum and Sirius. All the stars. In other words, none of the lines go outside of these stars. These lines are dedicated to these stars. They cannot be random. And these rocks cannot be graveyards. Why would you put 8, 9 graveyards to exactly point at these stars? And all lines show stars. There is no line that was drawn and doesn't show a star. And all contained within triangulum and series, that is the yellow dotted line from here to here. So the conclusion is the evidence is conclusive. In fact, it is conclusive. And for all practical purposes, I could rest my case here and say, okay, Namaratunga 2 is an archaeological astronomy site. But as you saw the site map, exactly mapped by SOPR, there are 2 platforms, north and south. So far, we didn't explain what they are doing. This is just a footnote. For those of you who have seen that other paper I wrote, Nabta Playa is 7,000 years ago, and they also duplicate 6 of the Urjiraha. This is a very amazing thing, but we'll come to that at another occasion. Now there are 2 sites. Now we have at least given a purpose to these 19 rocks. They all form a straight line showing 9 Urjiraha. No wasted stone, no wasted line, I mean, and no star that was not pointed at by a line developed southeasterly. That's where they merge, the stars merge. But there are also northern, I call it observatories, just is a circle drawn by SOPR, and this is the southern one. It begs a question, what is the purpose? There has to be, once we conclude that this is an astronomy site, it has to be an observatory. That's where I started playing with the software. What does these lines, what do these lines show? So again, I will use the software, and I will set the date as you see at the bottom, April 27. This is Bitakara. That is when a moon coincides with Triangulum. That is what I mentioned was conjunction, which was well explained in Marco Bassi's book. So, but when I do use the software, I don't have to bother about conjunction. I can pinpoint exactly where I know when conjunction happens. So from a reference point, the triangulum is right here, and I will draw a straight line from a reference point to triangulum. Plants is here, by the way, Bellatrix is here, Safe is here, and Sirius is here. The reason they look curved is because of the geometry of surface of the universe when you look from a distance like that. Now, I will put for April 27, I'll draw a line because triangulum just appeared at this time, 8 p.m. Plants still are not visible. It will be visible tomorrow, after tomorrow, by the way, around the same time, because right now this is daytime, this is dark. There is a moon here that to confirm conjunction. The reason sun is written here, just not to confuse you, the sun is on the other side of the earth. It is dark here. It's just showing you where the sun is for the purpose of simulation, but it's not a daytime. It is on the other side of the earth. But the moon happens to be very close, so that is a little bit unfortunate. But nonetheless, conjunction has happened. Triangulum is visible, and I have drawn from my reference point that red line, and I will put that red line on the Namaratunga side. If you see this line, it is the first line that we just drew, and if you keep drawing, that is where I drew the first line. And the second line, 1 month later, will be right. The first line crosses pillar 12. The second line will cross for Plats, stone 4. And the third line, every month, we can continue adding each month. And every line crosses some rocks. This is the third month. And this is the fourth month, 5, 6, maybe 7th month. And the first line on Triangulum appears on May 12, 2025. That's this line. This second line is June 11 for plants, and July 10, Aldebaran is right here. And August 9, Bellatrix. I'm moving according to the full moon here. In the paper I used, because I thought it's a little more accurate, I used new moon. But the distance from full moon to new moon, from new moon to full moon, is almost constant. So these are, the Southern Observatory is used to identify new month using the Urji Aha. And then I went to the Northern Observatory. This time I kept the map, but I'm using true rotation of the Earth, west to east. This may be a little confusing to a lot of my colleagues. Many of you think the Earth is rotating east to west. The Earth does not rotate from east to west. It's because it's rotating on itself, and the sun is permanent. The Earth is rotating from west to east. It's because the sun is almost permanent position. We think it is rotating from east to west. To account for that true rotation, in the simulation there are a few tricks you have to do. And around early July, this is when all the Urjilaha are visible. And in this case, I left the background noise, and I just put all the Urjilaha here in yellow points. This is exact position copied from the software simulation. And all the lines pass through at least 1 or 2 stones, and they point at the Urjilaha. And all 19 pillars have roles, no random placement. By now we conclude, in fact, that there is no pillar that has not been used. All the 19 pillars have been used to identify either a new moon and therefore, a full moon, a new month, or a position of the Urjilaha, singularly or not. So these are all the 8 stars, but remember the 9th star is here. It is also captured by some lean lines of rocks. So what are the key findings? Namaratunga 2 is a deliberately constructed multi-dimensional arrangement of basalt pillars. Multi-dimensional meaning you can look at different things from different angles. It has northern, it has southern, and it has lines independent of those observatories. Pillar alignments are consistent with Urjilaha. That is conclusive. The site served as astronomical observatory, and in the evening, the southern platform tracks new months, whereas in the morning, the northern platform tracks RA coordinates to identify whether the new lunar month has arrived or not. Alignments repeat predictably. In other words, I could use these configurations of Namaratunga in 2025 and tell you exactly what is the month and what is the day. Even today, they are accurate. If an astronomer comes and a Yantu comes, he can use Namaratunga 2 as a calendar indicator. And Namaratunga 2 is an archaeoastronomical observatory. The hypothesis that was forwarded by Merrill and Lynch is valid. And it also validates that the Oromo calendar is RA-based. That line is inserted to, again, prove that Marco Bassi was correct. It shows sophisticated astronomy existed 4,400 years ago. And the Ayantus can use these methods, as I mentioned, even today. It is an enduring indigenous African scientific knowledge that survived for more than 4,400 years. Next task for young researchers, I strongly recommend that those of you who are headed for that specialization also consider Namaratunga 1, which is about 209 kilometers south of Namaratunga 2. It has over 160 graves, a lot of data information on that site. And these are the two papers I published. And thank you very much, Dalatoma. Should I exit the PowerPoint?
Before you exit the PowerPoint, can you briefly say something how this can be connected to NAFTA Playa? I know you are not covering that subject, but just for other researchers.
Yes. Playa is in southern Egypt, in the Nubia territory. So, although there is no concrete evidence, the hypothesis that the Nafta Playa astronomy is also tied to the Cushitic civilization, for me, is beyond doubt. In fact, 6 of the stars are also mentioned or represented in that, and only Basadiko, which is Betelgeuse, and Safe are not used to determine or reckon time. The reason why Betelgeuse and Safe are not used is because it is far north in terms of latitude. See, when you go north, even for Namaratunga, my simulation is Yabello. That introduces some errors because you are moving north. As you move north, the angle of observation of the stars changes. So Betelgeuse and Bellatrix, as you see, number 4 in the next star not number, overlap when you go to Egypt. They are almost very close to each other. So they cannot serve as reference points. And Safe also is very close to Central Orion. Not that the stars moved, but our angle of observation moved. The very fact that these are replicated in Nafta Playa suggests very greatly that very, very likely the oldest or one of the oldest astronomers were the Cushitic people about 7,000 years ago. That again is carbon dated, it's not speculative. So that paper has been published and actually as a featured article, the editors liked it, as you see. And I may tell you a little anecdote that when I came up with this paper as an engineer, I had zero confidence that it will be even accepted. So the first person, one of the first, if not the first person I shared with that this makes sense was Professor Daniel Ayana, who is introducing me. So he did get this before I even published, and he gave me huge confidence to submit it, which I hesitantly did, and it got, in fact, published as a feature article. So the relationship between Nafta Playa and Namaratunga 2, if I ever continue working on this project, will be exactly that topic, to firm the relationship between Nafta Playa and Namaratunga. The challenge with Nafta Playa is it's not practiced today. There are no ground level information. Unlike Namaratunga, because with Namaratunga, the Urjit-Aha, there are many who know Urjit-Aha very well, and I myself have some idea about Urjit-Aha, although I don't consider myself a Yantu. But that's a challenge in the case of Nafta Playa. You have to rely on simulations, and but the link is not difficult to make. In my opinion, Nafta Playa is Cushitic. But that's a hypothesis, speculative, and hopefully we can prove that. Did I answer?
Thank you. Thank you, yes.
So, Professor Asfau, how is this related to the Oromo astrology? I can see that Lami sounds like an Oromo name, and so when you say Namaratunga is Namaratunga 2 is located, I think, close to Kenya, and so I was wondering if the 9 rocks are at the Namaratunga, that place is outside Oromia. And so I'm a little confused. How is it related to the Oromo astrology?
These borders are made less than 100 years ago, Dr. Daniel. They don't mean anything historically, especially going back thousands of years. There are Boranas on both sides of Oromos on both sides of the border. So the borders that are derived from colonial years, and then people's mobility, if at all these, without politicizing the agenda, this proves that that area was an Oromo territory.
Thank you. I think.
May I ask if Marco Bassi is in the audience? Okay. Any other question?
So if anybody has a question, please raise your hand and we will open your mic so that you can ask questions. Those in the attendees, you can raise your hand. You can also write a QA, question and answer. I can see Jamal raising his hand. Jamal, you are allowed to speak.
Yeah, so I don't know whether I have to use English or Oromo to ask my question. Is it okay if I ask in both or just one? Yeah, when the Professor asked for by Galatomi, by one good Darakun, you got the Betula, Yeroba in the Bana Oromo Matakaroda, Uma ilmanamati, Chalkabni Isa, Karominisati, Namati, Karominisa, Yeroba Yedubana. Akkanatti garuu empirically ragaa qabatamaadhaan ofiillee barree uummata biraallee barsiisuu irratti hanqina guddaa qabna. I just want to say thank you so much for confirming that this is really the invention of the Oromo people, and we are very much proud to contribute to humanity that there was already pre-existing knowledge to know about the universe in which you are living. Bye bye, Galaton Barbad. My question is here, Professor. I am hearing many times when during the celebration of Recha that the Oromo calendar today is at least 6,400 something years. So according to your figures, currently the site or the construction on the site showed that at least the Oromo calendar exists for the last 4,400 years. So there is at least a discrepancy of about 2,000 years. So why do you think there is a gap that our people, from their own memories and counting, are telling us it is over 6,000 years, 6,400 years, but the site, the one you showed us, is about 4,000 years and 400. Why is there at least a difference of 2,000 years? Galato.
Tommy, for the part that you spoke in Avan Oromo, I would like also to answer in Avan Oromo. It's beekumsa ni jette galatoomii garuu beekumsa akkasii Oromoon qabaachuusaa duwwaa miti waan baay'ee beekamuu qabu. Yoo xiqqaatee waggaa 1400 dura achi jiraachuu keenya. Jecha Madagaskaarii dhufnee maal sunillee amma gajjaa dhugaa harkaachuutti jiru. Suni amma iddeen qabu jechaadha. Biyya kee waggaa 1000 keessa jiraatte ta'uusaa agarsiisa kun. On the 6,000 oral histories are reliable, but I think carbon dating is more reliable, in my opinion. If we connect Nabta Playa as Cushitic, and Nabta Playa is carbon dated to 7,000 years ago, I think the calendar can be claimed at least about 7,000 years, and that is science. We should be able to defend that. In fact, we don't need to defend the science defends it. And the link of Namaratunga and Nabta Playa, in my opinion, is very good progress. The two articles, the two findings, make it a big step towards that. So I think a claim of 7,000 years is not exaggeration at all. Why not? I mean, it's not me speculating, it is the carbon dating that is proving those stones were constructed 7,000 years ago. In Namaratunga, 4,400 years ago. So I think it's not far-fetched to claim 7,000 years ago because the world has accepted Nabta Playa as such. All you have to do is connect the two. Obligama deebisee gaaffii keessan.
Baay'ee galatoomne jechuun akkuma torbayyuu gahuu dandeenyaadha. Kumni 6,400 nutti xiqqaate. So we can even say that 7,000 is also accurate. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this. Inni namoonni biroollee warri riisarchii hojjettan hedduun keessan Oromummaan akka gabbatu akkanatti otoo inni hojjettanii baay'ee namatti tola. Ani hedduutti gammadeera jechuu barbaade. Hedduu galatoomii umrii si haa dheeressu beekumsa si haa dabalu ilmaan keetiinis si haa deebisu uummata keenyaafis gammachuu guddaadha jedheedha. Fayyaa ta'e. Warri waan kana irratti hojjettan si qofa miti. All the researchers, the previous researchers and maybe the ones who are continuing to, Professor Asmaro, Marco Bassi, and any other researcher who has been doing this also. Thank you so much for landing the truth on the earth and the human mind. Bye, Galatoma.
Dr. Daniel, there is a question written in the QA.
Yes.
There is a question in the question and answer. You want to read it?
No, let me see.
Immirufi PC to Arkabasir.
Let me go ahead and read it then. Thank you, dear Professor, for presenting. Regarding the other Oromo knowledge in the locality of your research, the discovery of fire and the availability of archaeological evidence of ash remains, can this fact also contribute for the fact you are tracing the Namaratunga too is indeed of the Oromo? This is the question. This question is asked by Jira Joroke.
Okay, yes, no question. Namaratunga is Cushitic. Even the toughest critics like Soper did not deny that it is Cushitic. In fact, they call it Eastern Cushitic. Eastern Cushitic is practically Oromo. So there is no doubt. If you want to be very scientific, you may say Cushitic instead of Oromo. But among the Cushitic, the Oromos are who still today practice Urjit Aha as mapped and explained using Namoratunga. The fact that Urjit Aha is tied now to Namoratunga cannot be denied. I mean, it's very solid. So Namoratunga is, yes, it's Oromo, and yes, it is Cushitic. It's needed to say Gafisa kan gafate Obojirada. I don't want to type my answer. I have already explained it. It's faster to explain. But Meru has raised his hand. If you recognize,
Emilu, you have the mic.
Nanagama.
Yeah.
Jalqaba sagantaa kana bifa kanaani kana durasi qophaa'aa tureera. Har'a immoo dhimma akkasii kana irratti qopheessitanii achi as baasuu keessanii fi warri itti dadhabdanii warri qopheessitanii hundi keessanii gama kootiini ana duwwaas miti gaa warri jiran hundi galateeffachuun waan oolu miti jechaadha. Kuni gadaa haaromsa gadaa keessaa qaama tokkodha jedhaniiti kan isaan dhiyeessanis nuyi akkasumatti fudhanna jechaadha. Oromoon qabeenya akkasii qabaa jechaadha. Qabeenya kana immoo isan baratin toon ta'ini inni barate iyyuu hin beeku. Waan baay'eetu dhokatee jira jechaadha. Dhibbaan waggaa 100 olii isaa olii waan nurraan ga'ee kana qofaa toon ta'ini duubatti deebi'uu waan baay'ee nurraan ga'eera jechaadha. Amma immoo namoonni keenya isa kana qoratanii achaas baasuuni waan guddaadha. Akkam goonee dhimma kana irratti gara fuulduraatti bal'ifnee egaa jalqabaa inni barates akka baratu inni hin barannes uummanni keenya walumaa gala qabeenya isaa kana akkamittiin baratee maal gochuutu nurra jira gara fuulduraatti bal'inaan beeknee hojiirra oolchuu irratti maaltu nurraa eegama jettanii yaaddu isuma jedhu gaafachuun barbaade kanumadha. Galatooma.
Yaada urjiidhaa kana kan hin jalqabe waggaa 30 ta'a. Maaliif ani fiildii koomitii yoo dhuman xiqqoo dubbii ishee sammuuna tuntun dhaqeetti deebi'aa. Namoonni aadaa Oromoo baratan young generationiin jiru amma kana fuudhanii ittiin fagoo deemuu danda'an. Jalqaba irratti akkan agarsiise urjiidhaa xiqqoo baruu ayyaantoota wanti isaan irra jiru garuu xiqqoo baruun isaan irra jira. Sooftiweerii kana xiqqoo yaada qabaachuun isaan irra jira. Sanarraa kan hafe yeroo isaa fi some intuition yeroo baay'ee fudhata. Nuti eeriyaa keenya jijjiirree kanatti fagoo deemuudhaaf nu rakkisa. Barri karra banneerra jedheen yaada. Karra baname kanaan akka deeman amma Namoratungaa waan achi keessa innis kan Kushitiki I think greeviin jiran sararoonni achi keessa jiran hundi iddee qabu riisarchii guddaa hojjechuudhaaf. Gara biraan Namoratungaa dhuma keessa waan biraan waan fiildii dhaqanii achi taa'anii Marco Bassi duwwaadha from my understanding kan dhaqee achitti field research hojjete. Otoo namni tokko lama dabalamee dhaqee namoonni jiru jaarsoliin achi. Otoo isaan wanti nurraan fudhatiin otoo dhaqee interview baay'ee godhee kuni baay'ee nu gargaara. Karaa Booranaas karaa Oromiyaa yaabelloo keessa bojaatanii faa jiru isaanitti namni daddabalame otoo academic background isaa bal'ate gadis fagaate baay'ee gaariidha. Addana amma dandeenya sponsor gochuu dandeenya. Even guddannee yoo deemne immoo naaf apply yoo dhaqanii maa researchidha. Akkana research gochuu danda'u. Kurriin jalqabame reef barriin baname malee waan baay'eetu hojjechuu danda'amaan jedha. Booda galatoo. PC'n harka baaseera Dr. Daniel.
PC'n nama dubbachuu danda'a.
Mute PC. Mute irra jirta.
Unmute your virtual.
PC nama mute of godhee deebi'utti yeroo namaa qusachuuf tolutti darbuu dandeenya miti Dr. Daniel.
Tolutti fufi maayikii kan keeti. DGC dubbachuu dandeessa.
Hello?
Hello?
Indagama?
Indagama,
Yeah. This is Dejene Gamechu from Jimma University, Ethiopia. Really, Professor, I thank you for your amazing presentation. Really amazing, very interesting presentation. Even I don't have words really to appreciate it, and very interesting one. Having said this, just let me ask you a very simple question. As you all know, the Oromo use certain calendars to organize social events like Gadaa ceremony, even marriage ceremony, Gupisa, and the like. So, what are the possible explanations about the relationship between this lunar calendar, Oromo lunar calendar, and the social events? Normally, the Oromo do not organize events simply because there are certain relations between this lunar calendar and the social events like Gadaa ceremony. They wait for sometimes, and even we don't know the secret behind why the Gadaa leaders and the Ayantu they prescribe certain days, but it's not often clear for us, for layman. So would you please tell us if there are some explanations, possible explanations behind the relationship between these two? I mean, lunar calendar, Oromo lunar calendar, and social events. Thank you.
Yes, my research is mostly on the astronomy side. The one you mentioned is the ritual side. There are people like Obojatani Dida, who is an expert of this. Simply put, there are days or weeks when you are not supposed to marry. because the ritual doesn't allow you. There are times when you shouldn't go to war. There are times when you shouldn't make peace with people you have fought. And there are times when you should make peace. It's the time, the ritual calendar makes it advisable to make those moves. So the calendar has a ritual aspect based on some religious understanding that will preclude some things and recommend some other things. I'm not an expert in that area, but if you get a book, think of Pujatani Dida is here. He has 3 volumes of books that are dedicated mostly, not only, but mostly to the ritual aspect of the Oromo calendar or Ayana. Kanumanjira, if you cannot come out, sure you can communicate with the Pujatani. If not, I can connect you if you communicate with me later on. Thank you.
Ya, galatoma inga Jatani walin jirawanta efi harga chundanda walin islupa churandenya.
Pareda.
Galatoma.
I think Danabo. Danabo, you can't speak now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Professor, as well, for such an eye-opening presentation. It's really great to hear from you, and particularly inspiring for young Oromo scholars. I just want to start by thanking you for that work you've done. My question is, at the beginning of your presentation, you briefly explained the Gadaa education as a comprehensive system governing the social, economic, political, and legal and cultural life of the Oromo. And as we know, at the moment, I mean, since the Oromia was invaded by Ethiopia, those changes, those precious resources of which the entire Africa could have been piled of and shadowed by the acting in carbon institutions. Where would have Gadaa been, and this institution, including the Gaia and so forth, are developed in there was a sorry, I don't know where the noise is coming from. Am I loud?
But Danabo, I hear a lot of echo with your phone. I don't know if it is only me, or can you do a little better? I mean, I don't know what you can do, but try to make it clearer.
Is it any better now?
Much better.
All right. Okay. Sorry. What part of what I said you've heard?
Almost. I didn't hear you. Go over it briefly. I think I got the gist of it, but not the question.
Yeah, I began by thanking you for this eye-opening, thought-provoking presentation. And in your presentation, the introductory part of your presentation, you mentioned how powerful the Gadaa was as a system of governance governing the social, cultural, legal, economic. It is an indication of the fact that Oromia was a sovereign country and the Oromo were sovereign people who invented this beautiful system of governance. So what we've been talking about is some of the elements of the Gadaa system. So my question is this: had it not been for the fact that Oromia was invaded and has been captured by Ethiopia, where would we have seen the Gadaa system in general, and particularly the institutions within the Gadaa system, including the Oromo calendar and the anthropological resources that we've been talking about? And my second question is, if we had to restore, because this system have been replaced by the Tabot Ge'ez institutions, at least for the Oromo in Ethiopian Empire. So when we talk about restoring this institution, I think what we have been seeing is only the tip of the iceberg of the resource that the Oromo have had, and what the colonization of Oromia has denied the whole black civilization. So to put it in short, how could we work towards restoring these institutions? I'm not suggesting you said we should restore it, but it's incumbent on any person of African background to talk about restoring these kinds of resources, given the fact that the Oromia is under the clutches of alien, which is, adversarial to the Gadaa and whatever values that constitute Gadaa. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You raised a very sophisticated question. About 7 years ago, hundreds of people died at Bishoftu just to celebrate Gadaa. Nothing else, just to celebrate. And by the way, behind that celebration is thanking the Almighty God. That became a crime for which people were murdered. So what would be a society that evaded colonialism, where would they be? Country that evaded colonialism free is able to grow his thought process, his independent thought process. The impact of colonialism on the human brain, on the complex characters that will develop on your society are immense, not only cultural, but economic and in all aspects. Where would we be if we were not colonized? Only God knows. I'm sure my name wouldn't have been Asphalt, maybe the Nebo or Wario. I'm sure many of the Oromos who turned against their own people wouldn't have the opportunity, and the culture that suffocated the growth of another beautiful culture wouldn't have been there. So I don't know where would the Oromo people be without colonization, but definitely far, far in all aspects, far better than where we are today. That said, it's not wise to regurgitate on what happened 100 years ago, 50 years ago. Well, we have the chance, we have to work on the future, because if we just keep recycling what happened to us, then we will not have enough energy to break through for the future. And the second part of your question is about restoring Gadaa. The whole forum, the organization that the group that organized this platform has made this issue its agenda, and I don't think we should worry about restoring Gadaa in its ancient form. but all systems, all democratic systems go through time, evolution, and change with some modification that will fit the times and the generation and the 21st century. I think the Gadaa system is a viable, democratic, and indigenous option. So I do believe we have to work on it, and hopefully one day we will have this beautiful system. Not only the political aspect of it, but every aspect, the religious aspect, the calendar aspect, the Argadageti aspect. We will bring it and reintroduce it to our culture and political system.
Excuse me, Professor. Maybe I should have been blunt enough on my second question. Can we achieve the point that you've just explained with regard to revitalizing the Oromo institutions, the Oromo institution under the Gadaa system, without delivering or without restoring Oromia's independence? Can we talk about restoring them while Oromia is still under the colonial clutches of Ethiopia, the very empire that attempted to dismantle and partially achieved the task of dismantling or weakening the Oromo system of self-governance?
Ethiopia that does not recognize the cultural independence of the Oromo people can go away from me. The independence of the Oromo people, the culture of the Oromo people has priority. If Ethiopia does not accept that, recognize that, and it still wants to colonize the Oromo people, what option do we have? So independence for me is on the table. Is it the only way we can accomplish all those things? Can the right of the Oromo people and the cultural independence of the Oromo people can be recognized in some form of territorial integrity? I have been losing hopes bit by bit, and but we should always be on the positive side for the purpose of all international politics, our own politics, and for the purpose of promoting peace. But it should never be the unity of, let me put it bluntly too. The unity of Ethiopia that does not respect the cultural independence and political integrity of the Oromo people can go ahead.
I'm grateful. Thank you, Professor.
Jamal Kasir Mosarka. PC also is there, but
PC, but you don't go.
PC is unmuted now.
Let him go ahead first.